The date is the 23rd of July. It's a Sunday afternoon, and I'm sitting in my garden with Suleiman. I'm going to ask him 7 questions, and the theme revolves around clubland. My passion is architecture and clubs, and my dream is to reinvent, reimagine, and revive clubland. So, question number 1, Suleiman. What is your craft? So what is your craft? What art world, if any, would you define yourself as being in?
I would describe my craft as a performer, and that entails primarily acting, but also movement, so dance, and theatre making, so writing and producing theatre, which involves design and staging and choreography. But primarily I would describe my craft as a performer, actor.
Question number 2. How sociable do you feel? On a scale of 0 to 10, how satisfied are you currently with your engagement with other creative individuals from within your own artistic discipline and, more broadly speaking, across the arts?
I mean, it's the most important element of what I do. I can't think of any performance I've been a part of where it hasn't needed collaboration from other artists. And on a scale of 1 to 10, I think I would say probably 6.5. Which sounds quite low, but for me, the ideal would be to be working on a very high level with, international artists and across different art forms as well. So working with ballet dancers, working with singers, working with musicians, but for that collaboration to really be so strong, feeding off of each other's energies, feeding off of each other's specialisms, and rather than just adding it in, it's a real melding of different art forms together. Yeah.
And following on, question number 3 follows on from this. Is this rating, say, of sociability, satisfaction with your sociability, and it's a 6.5, is this a problem or not? So are there ideas that you have currently or have had in the past and maybe have let slip or slide, or are there ideas that you really want to activate and bring to the life in the near future that requires the knowledge and skills from other creative minds and spheres? So how much of a problem is this kind of lack of sociability, or is that this slight emptiness, or
It's a challenge, yeah. It's a challenge to be able to find time and space, I think, is one thing. To get people together in a space to have the time and the conditions to be able to do the required rehearsing, let's say, or working together, is tricky, and it just requires a lot of like trial and investigation and experimentation, which I find in this very fast moving world that we're living in is not always possible. So, to give an example, as a performer and an actor on stage, and someone that's really inspired by the Japanese art of kabuki, a progression that I would like to see in my next performances moving forward is how I can move and perform and dance with elements of traditional Japanese music, because in kabuki, for instance, the element of music is so fundamental. And I've worked with a fantastic shamisen musician on 2 of my 3 previous kabuki mono events, and it's been incredible to have him feature within my performance. But I think what's never quite happened yet is being able to really perform and move with the shamisen music on stage and kind of have that lyrical musical element just harmonizing with what I'm doing on stage, as opposed to it kind of being the shamisen music playing and then it stops and then I deliver my lines and then I stop speaking and then the shamisen music, to have that coalescence of music and body would be fantastic and would really just bring the level of performance to another level. But that requires rehearsing and really figuring out how that works and how you want to do that. So that's just trying to give an example of an idea of where I want to evolve one aspect of performance. Working with tailors, working with costume designers, to be able to have a really bespoke kind of artistic collaboration. Sets in my past, when I think about my previous independent kabuki mono performances, how fantastic it would be to try and reach the heights of, let's say, a grand opera company where you've got this gorgeous backdrop and set, and all those wonderful possibilities of set design, and try and harness that power in a sort of smaller scale performance, because of course I'm not a grand opera company, don't have that budget, don't have that scale to do something like that. But I feel like if I could absorb the essence of the beauty of and possibilities of set and costume, would be fantastic.
So, Suleiman, question number 4. We can pick up the pace. What does a typical day in your life look like? So from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, walk us through what a typical day looks like. When do you feel you are most productive? What do you look forward to? And what about your day has the potential to irritate you most?
My daily schedule changes quite a lot depending on what I'm doing. I work as an actor, so some days involve me rehearsing, maybe at the Royal Opera House, or filming on set somewhere else. But in general, I'd say I like my morning hours and I feel like I'm most productive in the morning. So I typically wake up on a very good day at 6:30. And for me, what I find works quite well is I like to do a physical activity in the morning, be it kind of 30-minute HIIT session at the gym, or going swimming, or doing just something to kind of activate and wake up the body, gets me out of the house, gets me kind of just refreshed and just feeling good and feeling like confident and ready to tackle the day. And then back at my flat, at my desk between 9 o'clock and 10, ready to do writing or reading. I feel like the morning hours is when I have like this kind of fresh energy, and seems like when I've got, most amount of space in my brain to take on new information and to kind of give new ideas thought. So at the moment I'm working on a play, so that might involve like doing some reading or doing some writing about that. And that will take me up until lunchtime, and then I have lunch most likely at home. And the afternoon is always a very precarious one. I feel like at a certain point in the afternoon, having woken up early and having had quite an intensive, quite a stimulating morning, I feel like there's always a slight inevitable lull in just my energy and kind of brain functioning. And I also feel like between 3 and 4 o'clock is when like part of me is just like slightly frazzled, and it's probably natural and probably just inevitable that when you've done quite hard thinking in the morning and you feel like you've been working quite productively, and then the afternoon it's kind of like, oh, what was that morning? What was I doing? What was that? But yeah, afternoon is kind of continuing to work on elements of my play, if I'm working on my play. And I think ideally the afternoon would be maybe a good time for, say if the morning's been kind of a lot of independent work and thinking and writing by myself, afternoon would be a nice time for having a meeting or having a conversation with another artist who I'm working with, or testing out ideas with another person, because I think maybe the addition of another mind, another body can give a kind of fresh energy and a fresh kind of perspective on things. I am out and about quite a lot, and I love to go and see lots of theatre performances, opera, ballet, music concerts. So evenings tend to be out somewhere, and I think that does give another layer of kind of inspiration and insight into my own work. And yeah, so a bit of body, physical stuff, then intellectual thinking and writing, working, just talking things with other people relating to my projects, and then also just connecting with the city, connecting with other artists by being out and about and experiencing the great art of others in the city.
Question number 5. Where did one of your most memorably thought-provoking conversations take place? So think back to a strikingly stimulating conversation that you had with another person, and where were you when that happened, when that conversation took place?
Well, one that's fresh in my mind because we were talking about this last night was 2016, around October, November time, and being in Salzburg, Austria. And I was doing some studying at the place where I was studying at the Mozarteum, and then Catherine and her friend Evie were in town, and they were at this beautiful cafe called Cafe Bazaar, one of the oldest cafes in Salzburg, and I joined them there. They were there having coffee, their notebooks were out, and were having a great time, just both in Salzburg, I think, for the first time. And when I joined them, they were midway through writing their manifesto, which was essentially kind of mottos or rules to live by, things that you wanted to kind of keep as like fundamentally part of your lifestyle, your activities, your thoughts, and never compromise. And there was something about being in this beautiful cafe in Salzburg in Austria, we all dressed really beautifully, and three kind of seemed like a nice kind of company: Catherine, her friend Evie, me. And yeah, I felt just kind of relaxed and able to kind of contribute to some quite funny and yeah, kind of beautiful ideas. We were talking about things like what were some of the things we were talking about? How one should never light one's own cigarette, but the cigarette should rest in between your lips and will remain there until someone it remains unlit until someone's recognized that that cigarette needs to be lit. And talking about costume and never being late, of course. And yeah, I think that sort of situation is kind of environment and place where my kind of thoughts could be really dynamic and kind of spontaneous, but yeah.
It's like there was a freedom in the thought. Yes, that was a very special environment. Cafe Bazaar. Question number 7. Are you currently a member of any private members clubs? If yes, which clubs are you a member of? What do you like about them, and what do you dislike?
Yes, I am currently a member of 2 clubs. One is a tennis club called Holland Park Lawn Tennis Club, which I joined in September last year. And I'm also a member of a club in St. James's called Royal Overseas League, which is where I have staged 2 of my previous Kabukimono events. I love the idea of clubs. I love the idea of feeling part of a social institution, or a kind of a place where you can be with other people who share similar interests to you. So for instance, in the tennis club, you're with other people who also love playing tennis, and I think it's just such a perfect way to be able to connect with other people, because there is a clear there's a solid thing that you can connect with someone else, even if you've never met them, and they might be, some people there are 70, 75, I'm 27, but you can have a bond over this thing of tennis, and you can just feel very free and easy to say, do you want to play a doubles match? And you can have a drink after, and it's great. And with Royal Overseas League in St. James's, I joined that, I think, just before lockdown, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place, beautiful location overlooking Green Park. There are lots of wonderful spots there to just sit with a coffee or a drink, read, write, fall asleep on an armchair if you like. And the staff there are really lovely, and it's very quiet. So, for me, I've often found myself maybe rehearsing or in between performances at the Royal Opera House, and then rather than going all the way back home and then having to go back to Covent Garden, I'm able to retreat into this cozy cocoon of a club and just sit there with my headphones, listening to music, having a coffee, and yeah, it feels like you're sheltered in a way from the public because it's a private place, it's a private institution, like you have to be a member to be there, so it's kind of got this exclusivity. Same with the Holland Park Lawn Tennis Club, you have to do an audition to get in, but within that, and kind of because of that, because of the exclusivity, because of its private nature, it feels very free, like you can kind of be who you are. And yeah, I love it very much. I can't remember if you had a question attached to that.
I think there were about drawbacks. Are there any drawbacks with either of these clubs? I mean, it doesn't have to be so personal about the club itself, but just the nature of the way they go. Are there any drawbacks or things that you think, oh gosh, just this little thing or that little thing could really make this so much better, more glamorous or easier or more accessible to your life or things?
Overall, I really love both places, of course for different reasons. One's a tennis club and one's more just like a kind of gentleman's club. As trivial as it may sound, like for me I think lighting's very important, and just small little details. Like I just remember I was at the Holland Park Lawn Tennis Club a few days ago, and in the clubhouse, the main area where people sit on nice sofas and have a drink, have their dinner or whatever, there's like a bar there as well. It seemed like there was either no lighting, or the lighting there was just kind of like could have been improved so much. And similarly in Royal Overseas League, I've often kind of gone into the bar and kind of felt, well, so many things about this is beautiful, but if there was just really simple like lighting, like a lampshade or something, could just give a way more warmer, kind of cozier, more flattering sort of light, and I feel like everyone would be way better looking instantly because of that, and probably more relaxed and stuff. So I guess those small little details, which sometimes club's quite a busy place. There's constantly as a there's so much kind of events that both places are always trying to put on and serve their members and stuff. But I think that because of all of the kind of activity and constant things going on, that maybe some of those smaller little details kind of maybe get overlooked and stuff. And I don't know, for me, part of the club idea, I have this like really beautiful memory of going to, this is a bit random, but going to see a rugby match when I was in the rugby team at school years and years and years ago. Or maybe I was like, I don't know, 16, 15 or something. And it was a varsity match with Cambridge University against Oxford University. And the thing that sticks in my mind is when they both came out, entered the pitch, they were both wearing these silk gowns with the Cambridge and Oxford like respective emblems of their university on their gowns as like a kind of pre-warm-up sort of kind of costume. And I do love, if I'm part of these clubs, and I think I would love to like have a kind of costume or some sort of apparel that is sort of in a really nice aesthetic, subtle way, kind of, yeah. So there's no existing Royal Overseas League kind of little insignia or little I don't know what it would be, but just some kind of thing that's like, yeah, I have this because I'm part of this club and could wear it. And like with the tennis club, they're starting to do some kind of t-shirts and stuff, but I feel like it could just be like way better and cooler. Anyway, it's another little detail, but the devil is in the detail.
Absolutely. Okay, so now there are 2 bonus questions. Which space within the city do you value most? So a space that inspires you the most in London. Space that enables you to think most optimally, creatively, and freely. So, what is this space in London that you just can't imagine living without?
For some reason, Kensington Gardens always flashes in my mind when I think of London and like space for pure thought. I think I'm very attracted to being outdoors. It's a place that's always accessible. Like, could be winter, could be summer, could be raining, or it could be the most beautiful balmy day, but it's like always there, always available. And I always feel like I've got my complete own space there because it's pretty vast. It's not the biggest park in London, but still it's like sizable, open green space, lakes, ponds, sounds of birds, and something about kind of being in an English park. And I'm often always kind of going through it. So I'm always like maybe on my bike going through it into town, or walking through it with a friend, or walking through it with my dog. But I think that space lends itself to really beautiful thoughts that swirl through my mind. Not like I've gone there specifically to think over something, but like I'm listening to my music with my headphones. I've had something in my brain because I've been reading maybe earlier in the morning, or gone to an opera or a ballet performance the previous night, and just being in the open space with the beautiful kind of scenery, the trees, the ponds, the lake, the flowers, really like stimulates me. And yeah, I think maybe just because of the emotional sort of history of like being there as a child, being there on dates, being there when I've kind of on my way to the opening night of performance, being there at dark, being there in the first hours of the morning. And it's just a place I've kind of known my whole life. And so I've just got many different memories of it and just know it off the back of my head. So I just feel off the back of my... know it like the back of my hand. So, yeah, for that reason I also feel just comfortable in the place.
And last but definitely not least, what would happen, or what would you want to happen in the ideal club? Where would it be? How often would you go? Who would you see? What type of events would take place? And what types of discussion? What type of dress code would you expect? And do you care for this ideal club, an alternative space that does not already exist? Is it important to have it? Does it already exist? Does it need to be invented?
That is a great question. I don't think this type of club exists, or at least I've not experienced it. My ideal club would be in London. It would probably be in St. James's, because it's my favourite place in London, especially when it comes to clubs. it would have a high standard of dress code, but it would kind of be a given, as in people, the members that would be there would already be like, dress would be already such a significant part of their lifestyle and their own expression of themselves and art. So it wouldn't be like, oh yes, you have to, you know, we have to dress up in a specific way because it's the club, but people there would just be so loving the idea of just dressing up. And I suppose it would be an artist club, so it would be a place that would attract tailors, designers, ballet dancers, musicians, artists, architects, and I think it would be, yeah, a really cool, beautiful, kind of old grade-listed building that has a kind of, I don't know, club architect, someone that is sort of directing or creating, you know, is the kind of like mother of the club. And it would be quite quiet for most parts of the day. You might find like a writer there, you know, reading or working on something, like lots of like small rooms with places to sit, have really nice coffee, or have a drink. It wouldn't be like, you know, some super busy kind of Soho house or something where it's just like constant hubbub of activity. But I can imagine maybe throughout the week there'd be like different moments, like maybe there's a film screening in the evening or like a Thursday evening, and it's like an old kind of film, maybe In the Mood for Love or maybe Casablanca or just some like really beautiful kind of art film, and that would always be done in a really nice way, like a kind of like sort of drinks beforehand or kind of like interval midway, and yeah, these kind of like evenings of beautiful music and quite free, a place that you can meet other people, you can take other people you really love, and just feels very aspiring, a place that you'd really love to bring someone that you really like, and a place that you can always meet people who have similar passions for art and aesthetics and travel and all these beautiful things. So roughly that sort of shape and form.
Thank you, Suleiman. That's it. But these are hard questions to even try to get out. What am I wanting to ask? What answers am I looking for and searching for? But it's really important to ask questions and to dig deep and to feel your way through things. So, clubs.
Thank you. Until next week.